Hello, just popping in with another half-cocked round of some more half-cocked roundedness and BS. But I just wanted to maybe share insight as it occurs to me. And so I made a video a while back called Bodhisattva, and I was talking about how we are sometimes visited with different things that are taxing, if not daunting or painful or challenging. And it comes in ebbs and flows, and there's no getting away from that in life, try as we may. And I was citing the dog barking in that video, and you may hear a dog barking right now as I make this video. And I wanted to say that, and I also made recent videos about how we can frame anything as anything. And a lot of times you could maybe reason that, we all experience life in the first place, but framing things is how we is a function of growth and how actually we interpret things and become effective in managing and mitigating an environment. However, we have it mounted here. The environment has been here and is here for countless expanses. But we ourselves and our experience is still yet growing because we are refashioning, if not as a function of reinterpreting an environment and like it is a frame. And so that's very, whatever this thing that we are that's been called human is, that is a lot of it right there is how we frame something. And this might seem like little league or like amateur night at the like the whack comedian at the amateur night. But I actually just came to appreciate this dog that's barking differently than I had before. First is that I actually didn't know the gender of the dog, but it turns out that that's a small female dog. And I also made a video about female dogs. That video was more there. I had a real point in there in that sometimes if we were to think about terms before we hear them, we might not be caught off guard and we could ground them and manage the situation better. So to really understand that a female dog is beautiful in the first place, one of the beautiful things you'll experience if you are in any kind of real situation where you can feel life a little bit differently when you have something serious on your hands. You can sometimes feel the grace and also the strength of a female dog, not even being sure that it had been a female dog, but you can kind of feel certain things off a dog. Dogs have some of the deepest bonds in bonding with other dogs and also humans, sometimes far beyond what would be between two humans. And I think that might be yet as deep, if not deeper, with a female dog than a male dog, just because females are generally loving in nature and are nurturing in nature. And the works of India, of Bharata Dharma, cited by Arthur Avon, has said that in traditions of India, there are solemn dimensions understood to attend a female being of any grade or any station, and that so much of the finger is not to be raised against a female at any point, and not the least of which currently like a female dog. But so that the dog is a small, cute female dog is a little bit less daunting than like this little badass guy over there that's like challenging everyone that walks by. But what I've come to appreciate is that perhaps that dog will start barking as soon as anyone walks by, or even maybe if they get bored. And what they may what may be happening is that the dog is lonely and would like attention, because dogs are very social in nature and they love nothing else than to relate to other dogs and people, and that's conveyed over attention. And then I think that dog is left alone for hours on end because the woman who works there is a young woman and she's very hardworking. I've actually showed up at her job with something to say. No, she works at a department store that I would otherwise frequent, and I have frequented there, not expecting to run into her, but she's very hardworking, but she leaves that dog alone for hours on end. So I think that sometimes that barking of that dog is actually it's calling out for, it's more like a cry actually, if you think about it. It's not actually that it's affronting or insulting anything. It's more so crying for attention, and that's the one thing it can say is that bark. And that's not actually limited because communication is not limited in any means. So many different things could be communicated with a bark or a sigh or a cry, maybe better than would be conveyed over like a lexicon, which is like a group of words in a language, or like just verbalism is that just that enunciation is maybe communication par excellence, and that the dog had been crying. And when you hear it like that, it's actually it's more endearing and even a little bit sweet, but also sad that the dog would have to bark that much alone, that much so alone. And I can relate to that because I've lived the majority of my life alone, even though I was shacked up with family for a long time. Past when would probably be healthy, but even as I've operated as a professional, as a person of faith, and how I've encountered and experienced faith, notwithstanding turbulence in different settings, also faith settings and educational settings, somewhat stemming from my communication style and personality style, and maybe just my actual height, because I said that maybe different venues like church settings and even education might be something of a standing contest. Who can stand taller, while we're also understanding that we're not taller than anyone, and yet not as tall as what has been taller than everyone. And it's greater for being taller than everyone, yet it's not better to be taller than people, is what it feels like in church settings. But I know something about what it means to be alone, from a male at least, and so I can feel something off that dog when it's maybe crying like that. And I wanted to put that out there with this video, and also say to shout out to anyone that is more so alone than you would like to be or choose to be, because a lot of things in this life we have it handed to our ass, whether we bring our best or don't. We don't bring our best, we're gonna get fucked up. We bring our best, we're gonna get fucked up. But yeah, we don't bring our best, we're not gonna survive either. So we gotta bring our best and still get fucked up and still suck that shit up and still smile and have a smile for someone within a lot of fucked up shit, as more fucked up shit is about to happen. Now, I'm not asking for any flowers with this. Not any flowers that someone maybe wouldn't drop in front of me and bend over if I'm keeping it real, to pick it up, the flower, and then maybe we can share a flower together. But I just want to say that this lonely thing, and there's a difference between being alone and lonely, and you'll probably, it's like maybe surfing, where you can ride that and you can more so exist alone, and then sometimes you'll be visited by loneliness, or you can be lonely and then sometimes visited by aloneness. So where there's enough of a silver lining in life that we can get through things if we take strength and courage. But it is yet daunting and dauntless, no less than a dog. So as I'm making that video about Bodhisattva this and Bodhisattva that, and the different sufferings that we undergo, the dogs don't get away from that either. No one does, nothing does. So we should be kind to one another when we're thinking about hunting, when we're thinking about doing different things with animals, when we're thinking about doing different things with other people. We should be yet kind and compassionate, because we had been the same person, but we're just at different cycles and at different points within a cycle. I don't think it's been said that you can't do anything in a straight line in this universe. So maybe you could take that one further and say that all things exist as a form of a circle, because all things had started, it emanated at one point, and likely will return to that point, maybe having never left that point. And from that perspective, it can be like a circle, or maybe a dot within a circle, and circular activities surrounding a dot. But yet we do somehow come all the way back around. And I meant to say that actually I lost that train of thought, but the lonely stuff is real, and we all do feel pain. Right? And so anything that however it is that we come into this life, and maybe how we are to transcend this life, it yet exists around different cycles and functions of a circle, and such is also our suffering and joy. And the joy is part of the suffering, and the suffering is part of the joy. And watching others suffer and enjoy is also part of our own suffering and enjoying, to keep it real. So just shout out for the dog, and just maybe have compassion for people in your heart. I can hear the sad violin coming in, and I didn't intend to add that one without copyright, without plagiarizing something, plagiarizing the sad violin. And YouTube, your shit is whack. You plagiarize that. But if that dog is crying out for something, and you can at least feel a different thought about that dog and understand where that dog's coming from, maybe they can feel something of your heart, and that's what they're calling out for. So maybe the aloneness of that dog is actually calling out for the aloneness of me in my my apartment, making these inspirational, insightful commentaries to likely not be viewed very well. So like we cry and we hurt. They say that all of our music, all of our greatest music in life and in modern reality can be a function of and somehow influenced by the music of the black most of our Western popular music can be derived from or influenced by influences of the Black American culture, African American culture, foundational Black American culture, going all the way back to like you have like your hip hop, your funk, your maybe a little bit of disco, and then your soul, R&B, your rock and roll, maybe a little bit of doo-wop before that. and then your blues again, popular before the rhythm and blues had been the blues, and then you have your gospel before that, and then you have your folk before that, and the folk is part of all that. But even within all that, you had something called call and response. So there's a feature in a lot of music, if you understand music a little bit broken down, is that there's like a call motion, and then a hearing. You're saying something, and then you're hearing. You're speaking, and you're being heard. You're speaking, and you're being heard. And I've said that a lot of our a lot of life is it's very simple. Like it's attraction and repulsion, which are also both the same. And then you say, okay, so all this reality can be amounted to chemistry, and then maybe finer romance, and then attraction and repulsion within that. But what about the absolute? What about mathematics? Because mathematics is conceptual, and it can be reasoned that it's maybe outside of what we know of as reality, because it's a pure concept. And that actually might be the most egregious way to harm a person. Also, I made a video before this about talking about our associating with other people when we come together intimately, or whether friendship, romantic, or family, and that how we are yet humiliated by our contact with a person, whether that humiliation is enjoyed or is beneficial. That dynamic, we fundamentally humble one another when we come together through our intimate contact and association, but then also our broader social and emotional association amounting to attachment. We are extended and somewhat compromising that also. But what I wanted to say is that but that can be like but within that, the most harmful thing that a person can do to you is hurt the idea of you, not necessarily hurt your physical body or your emotions or even your spirit or your soul, but the concept of you, the idea of you. So if I know you and we're friends, and you have a certain unique aspect of your appearance, and then I put that appearance on, and me and another friend mock me wearing that, or we mock each other in your likeness, that is mocking is one of the deepest ways to insult a person. Or maybe because mocking a person, it speaks to all the dimensions of a person. Your voice, which all of your experience and experiences are within your voice, and your insight and your mannerisms, and your physical appearance, and your occupation, and your interests, and your hobbies, all that can be called forth when a person is being mocked. But the deeper aspect of that, the most profound part about that, is the idea of a person. How is this person understood to themselves and to eternity, throughout eternity? Some people have said that all of the works of Arthur Avalon say that there's no such thing as creating a word, or saying a word for the first time. It had actually already existed on a level, and then it emanated, and you invoked it as you spoke it, and then it yet sustains and maintains, just like a piano pedal, where or like a piano, the reverberations of what we say, they go on. They had existed before we called forth and struck or plucked something and enunciated it, and then they yet go on indefinitely and eternally on a level, on a very deep level. And such is the concept of us as a life, as a person, as a being, which is a function and attendant of all the things that we have ever said and did and has been said about us. So I think that's what is appreciated by different, like, warriors and martial people, when they are willing to die over this thing about valor and honor. Because if I'm going to die now, or a year from now, or 5 years from now, in the first place, a very heinous and violent death, no less, at any point of that, and one day I will not be none the wiser that I had ever been here. What's going to account for something is the idea of me and the memory of me, and so I meant to say is that to mock the idea of a person is one of the heaviest blows you can deal to someone, and it's invoked when we associate and come together with a person, whether between us in our heart or publicly, where that's on the line. And that's some of the challenge around what it means to what's the appropriate level of engagement for different people, different walks of life, such as when we come together in co-ed situations. So this thing about pain is real. And I also wanted to say, it's a deep thought that I had. It might be a deep thought. I don't know how other people feel about this. Is that I've talked a couple different times about how, okay, so before we're appreciated as having a birthday and then being conceived 9 months before that. Was that conception of us synonymous with the conception of the universe? So if you were to look at if you were to look at our existence in absolute terms, could it be fathomed that the reverberation or the function of what amounted to us being conceived at one point in what's understood as linear time, is that not synonymous in coalescing with the actual conception and impetus of the universe as it has and is come to be? If you were to take out references for time, then whether or not that had been so, were you yet dead before you had been conceived? And is not death eternal? So were you somehow dead, but not eternally so enough that you could be conceived, and then you live, and then you are yet dead again at the summation of your existence living, which is not very long in absolute terms. And then but that other one was maybe somehow permanent. So if the first death, or especially the second death, is permanent and is forever, and at that point you may not even experience your own death because you wouldn't be there, you wouldn't be able to perceive your own death because you're already out of here. Had your life while you're here really taken place, because there's nothing to have experienced it, because that death is yet forever. Forever is not forever is not, it's not limited, it's limitless. So it can as easily go, it can as easily attend to any other point in what's understood as linear time, from one point, from a present or antecedent point, are the same in absolute terms without a reference. So as you are thought to be dying, did you ever really live? Did you ever experience anything? So I think you may or may not have. So sometimes I was driving by a cemetery, and I'm like, sometimes I have like different thoughts about like, should I really listen? This cool song just came on the radio, or this cool podcast. Should I really bump this as I go by the cemetery? Or maybe they would actually rock with me, like, man, enjoy that shit, man. You're alive, man. Enjoy that while you have it. Or, but sometimes you see people walking by the cemetery, and like they have like their different lives, and like different things that are on their mind. But what if they're actually already in the cemetery in absolute terms, because they will one day die and their death will be forever, and without a relative reference, that death is eternal and is forever. So it is as much existing now as it will be at the linear point in time where they're said to die on their death certificate. So are they maybe already dead and already inside that cemetery, even as they walk past that cemetery and think themselves to be alive? I don't know, but I think it could as easily be so. And me even thinking about that. So then, what would it mean to be alive if life and death are, or if death is eternal and we are to die at one point? Then maybe our experience of living is more so of a sensation than a reality, because we are yet already dead on a level, if we are going to ever be dead, and that death is forever. So, but yet we do have the sensation of being alive with something that is real enough or transcendent enough to give us the perception of being alive in such a venue as all things that are now living or have lived or will live will yet die at one point, as is understood, and that death is eternal. Yet something is transcendent enough and is enough of an impetus to exist within that realm of eternal death, attended by a temporary life. And so it's kind of like what would be that cool? What would be strong enough to give us the perception of being alive? When I was a little boy, I had this thing about motorcycles. There was like, I grew up near a university, and there was like a motorcycle park, or like a parking place. And when I looked at a motorcycle, to me, I think I might have heard the word God a couple times, or understood that there can be something great, something that feels like a daddy, like a really, 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 really cool daddy, like an actual cool daddy. And I saw that in motorcycles, and I used to say Momo. I think that's actually a real word, because I grew up around some like, I grew up like around my best friend and his older sister when I was a very, very small boy. Their dad was like a biker and into some sketchy shit, and he was really friendly and really funny too. And I think that I remember I was at like a park one night, and I smelled this weird smell when I was a little kid. I wasn't offered anything, but I smelled this weird smell, and I remember falling asleep after smelling that. So I might have been around like some weird smells when I was a little kid, but at a picnic or a park. But their dad was so cool, and I associated him, daddiness, and motorcycles, and Momo. That's probably what he would have called it. But I imagine if life is like riding on your dad's Momo, or even that guy, he gave me he gave us rides on his motorcycle when we were little. This is back in the 80s, the mid 80s. That riding up on your daddy's motorcycle could give you the feel of like being alive, and like being like you're riding on your dad's cool. Your experience of being alive of living, the different things you'll get to say and do and suffer and enjoy is yet a function of riding along with your dad. And it's more so of it's more sort of an experience and a perception than a reality. Maybe we could say that life is more of an experience and a perception than a reality in any concrete terms, because all we really are is attraction and repulsion, down to the matter, the atom, the quantum, the quanta. It's just attraction and repulsion. And you can maybe say there is no such thing as matter. That's egregious. I think Arthur Avalon would say that there's no mind outside of attended by what's considered matter, or matter outside of what's considered mind. So I actually can't substantiate that, but it does sometimes seem like we're living in something that doesn't exist as we perceive it to. But what does exist is attraction and repulsion, and somehow in that we have the sensation of being alive and living and choosing and feeling and fearing and all that. But yet maybe we are actually already inside of the whatever is eternity, whether that's beautiful or that's oblivion. And that somehow wherever people experience when they go up over the fence of the cemetery, they had maybe already existed that way in absolute terms before what's understood in linear times as their death. And being alive is more of a sensation, and that's a very haunting thing, but it's also kind of beautiful too. And it's something about riding on that motorcycle, and whatever that motorcycle is, it's bad enough and it's daddy enough to somehow go between what's called life and death and give us a sensation of riding on it and being a person. And I think that that's some of what life is about. And then as I was thinking that type of thought, with this kind of beat that could sound like it would go like that. Now, some people are dangerous. Like you see different like street people, and they seem dangerous without having met you or said anything to you. But you see some bikers, and that looks bad. Like, so if you can imagine like a posse of bikers embarking on a journey, not necessarily riding down the highway, but just like embarking on a journey, like where they're kicking those bikes in gear, and they're like slowly like peeling off in mass. That's the type of beat that I was on, listening to and thinking these thoughts about watching people walk past the cemetery and wondering if they're already in there, and I'm already in there with them while I'm wondering if they're already in there. And then I round the corner and there's like a little kid on a bicycle, on his own bicycle, and then a little girl running behind him. And she wasn't running that fast, but she was running all out. So she might as well have been going fast, because to her that was fast, how she was chasing him down. And she meant that, how she was behind him. She was booking behind him. There's a cool word for people, booking. We used to say that. I used to hear that said when I was little. Some people would say like they're dipping, or they're getting little, or they're getting low, but he's booking it, man. He's booking. This girl was booking up behind this boy on a bike, and they weren't off their dad's motorcycle or nothing. They were just off the strength of it. So maybe that's yet deeper than riding off of our dad's motorcycle, is just riding our own bicycle or riding our own feet off the strength. And whatever perception that gives us of being alive, while we may or may not already be in a cemetery. Those kids were nothing inside of a cemetery. They were whatever life is and can be there, all of that, those two kids. But sometimes I just meant to say that maybe this is more of a sensation and experience than actually a reality. And that's actually why it's so beautiful and undefined. Peace.